Hi there, this is Lori Edge-Hughes of the Canine Fitness Center. And in today's blog, we are doing a video interview of a new best-selling author, Shauna Slobodian. So there, yay, welcome, Shauna.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to do your quick introduction. So
Okay.
Shauna is a physiotherapist and a canine rehab therapist from Kingston, Ontario, Canada, for those of you watching from far and wide. She is the owner of Positively Fit Canine Rehabilitation and Wellness, the founder of the Facebook group Our Healthy Dogs, and the recent
Senior dogs.
Which?
Our healthy senior dogs.
Oh, senior dogs. Well, that's true. And the recent #1 best-selling author of This Old Dog, The Owner's Guide to Providing the Best Care for Their Senior Dog. Hold it slow.
Yes.
Yay!
It's
Good.
very exciting.
Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I think this is good. I really want people to know about this book. So that's your short bio. That's your kind of professional bio, very, serious. But what's your backstory? Why physio and why get into canine rehab?
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern Ontario where it's typically warmer than Kingston. It's like the tropics. Well, it's all the tropics compared to Calgary. But when I was in high school, and I don't know if they still do this or if you remember this, but we had to fill out your intention sheet where you had to put down what classes you wanted to take next semester. And I remember this distinctly, sitting at the kitchen table, filling it out. And there was a little spot that you had to put what you thought you wanted your future career to be. And I remember yelling upstairs to my mom, like, Mom, what do they call those people that teach you to learn how to walk again after you have an accident? My mom's like, I think it's a physiotherapist. So that was like my big, I'm going to be a physiotherapist moment, but it stuck because here we are 20 plus years later. So that I finished high school, obviously, went to university. And then when I was doing my undergrad, I did a job shadow at the local rehab hospital with a physio there, and she worked on the neuro unit, and she had a young guy that had a stroke. I think he was in his late 30s or early 40s. And his wife came every day for his physio sessions, and they had finished up the session for that day, and he had walked in the hallway and down the stairs, and the physio said, I think you're almost ready for a weekend pass to go home for the weekend. And the reaction that this caused in his wife, who started to cry and was so emotional, I was like, I want to do that. So that was I knew that I wanted to have that sort of impact on people's lives and their quality of life. I have never been the physio that wanted to work with athletes. That's just not my bag, but wanted to have that impact on people's quality of life. So fast forward a couple years later, got into physio school, moved to Kingston, went to Queens, and thought I wanted to work in neuro, couldn't get a job in neuro, so ended up working in home care, which is a mixed bag of everything, but generally you're working with seniors. So that's the seniors part of it. And then in 2015, so this was about 5 years into me practicing, and I don't know why it never clicked before, was reading through one of the CPA, the Canadian Physio Association's emails with all the courses they send out. And there was one for the animal rehab division for the independent study course. And I was just like, and I got so excited. And I think I told everyone that day, I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do physio on dogs. And so that's how I got into doing it with dogs, and did my live courses in 2016, and then launched Positively Fit in 2017.
Oh, nice.
In 2017, and then finally finished my diploma in 2019. But that's kind of the longer, shorter story of how I got to here. Yeah.
Oh, now I'm echoing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, your book, This Old Dog, is great. I think there's so many great tips and tidbits in there for the dog owners. And what led you, what was your desire to write it? What led you to that desire? And why the topic? Why senior dogs?
Mm-hmm. So I proclaimed to my husband in the fall of 2019 that I was going to write a book, and didn't know how I was going to do it, didn't know what I was going to write a book about, but just that I wanted to write a book. And it was like the universe was like listening into me, because I don't think it was that long after I got a message on Facebook from someone that was kind of in the same, we knew some of the same people, and he reached out to me about writing a book. And he ended up becoming my coach, and he's now a friend, Jeremy Sutton. He's down in Louisiana. But he helps to coach healthcare professionals to write books, because we have so much knowledge stuck up in here that we do one-on-one, but we don't put it down on paper to give to the masses. So he really pushed me to write a book. He taught me what the heck to do to write a book and how to get it out there. So that's how I ended up with the book idea. Why senior dogs? Well, I think it's always been seniors, whether it's been people or the four-legged kind. I grew up very close to my grandparents. I was very lucky. I got to see each set of them at least once a week. So being around, some people are weird about old people, and I don't know why, but I love seniors. They don't complain about the mundane so much as the rest of us do. They have better stories. They are just grateful, but they have so much to gain if someone just gives them a chance. And they are often so written off by whether it's like the vet, the doctor, and take these pills and you're old and that's just too bad, just go home and deal with it. But there's so much that we can do if we just give them something to do. Like, I remember I had a client, a veteran, and he was having hip pain. So we were doing exercises and squats and whatever. And he went back to see, I think it was the orthopedic surgeon, who told him to stop doing squats. And I was like, are you going to stop getting on the toilet, off the bed? Like, what? but it's like ridiculous advice that doesn't really help anyone. So that's why, yeah.
I don't know. Good luck not getting onto the toilet.
I know, right? So yeah, I don't think we can poop standing up. So yeah, that's why. And I think there's just so much that could be gained by the senior population if we just give them some education and some stuff to do, instead of just medication and see you later and come back if it doesn't work.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you're right. They do have better stories. I think to myself, will I have good stories, and I guess maybe you just have that many more experiences and, less restrictions. Like, well, when I was a kid and we didn't have seat belts, I suppose the stories are very, stuff you've experienced. So you're right about that. Now, okay, so the book covers a lot of topics. How long did it take you to write? And was COVID a help or a hindrance? Did you have more time, or was it just like, oh my gosh, I got to get it done? Whip, crack, crack.
So get it done. It probably took me 10 months on and off to write the book. Like, I would work on it diligently, and then it would get pushed to the back burner. And then so like originally when I was working with Jeremy, the book was going to be done of March 15th of last year. So clearly I missed that date big time. And then COVID hit, and it kind of sent, like most people, sent life into a bit of a tailspin. So my son at the time, he's 3.5 now, he's 2.5 then, daycare closed. I was working full time. So running a business, working part-time in a job. My husband was the manager of a store at the time, and we don't have family here to rely on for childcare. So it was like, all right, what the heck are we going to do? So I ended up taking a leave for 4 months to be home with my son, and also try to keep the business going. So that was tough. So I was just tired. So not a lot got done in those 4 months, sort of. My focus just went elsewhere. So it was good in the sense that I took that time. I started our Healthy Senior Dogs Facebook group, which I think was fortuitous because it has really helped with the launch of the book and just having a community behind it. And a lot of the pictures in the book have come from members of that community. So that was really nice. But COVID didn't help. Daycare reopening in July helped a lot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's awesome. I'm glad it finally got done.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Me too.
One of the things that I really admire about the book is that it delves into descriptions and education component about topics related to aging, and then it delves into what people can do to address some of these things on their own. Well, did I freeze?
Yeah, but
Did
your
I
sound
freeze?
didn't. A little bit, but your sound's
Oh,
good.
you're frozen.
I can
I'm
hear you.
frozen.
Uh-oh.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, good. And then the other component is it also tells people, what other therapies they can seek out. So professionals they can seek out and
Mhm.
things they can do. And it makes it very user friendly. So,
Mhm.
well done on that and
Yeah.
in managing it that way. And there's so many parts of the book that I love. You have a section on, how owners can detect pain in their dog. And do you find in your clinical practice that owners sometimes struggle with knowing if their dogs are in pain?
Oh my God, like all the time. The number of
Uh-oh, frozen
times
again.
that, I can still hear you. Does the sound okay?
Okay, good. Well, then you just talk.
Okay, good. Um, yes, but all the time I find that owners misinterpret signs that are pretty obvious to you and I. And the one being, oh, well,
Mm,
these don't seem like they're in pain, but they're just not using that leg. And I'm like, well, why else would they be holding that leg up? Like, if you think about it practically, a dog has no desire to be on three legs. They're just not using it because it hurts. So that I find is the
right,
biggie that people miss. And dogs don't operate like we do. We tend to make them into mini humans when they are not, and they don't bitch and moan like we do. They might moan and groan, but they aren't like, oh, this freaking hip hurts again, and I need to go to the chiropractor. They just don't do that.
right.
So we notice those subtle signs, like changes in behavior, like maybe they used to get up on the couch all the time and they don't, or they're grouchy when you touch something. Or the other thing I find a lot of owners misinterpret is, especially with arthritic dogs, when they're slow and stiff to get up in the morning, they don't recognize that slowness and stiffness can also be discomfort or pain.
Mm,
We're often looking for those really overt signs, like our dog crying or something like that.
right.
When they're by the time they're crying, it's usually pretty nasty.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, those are good points. And one other aspect that I thought was great was the section on arthritis, and in particular about physical activity. And you use
Mhm.
the phrase "motion is lotion." Can you take a moment just to expand on that for the
Don't
people who haven't read the book?
we? Yeah, I think physios love our little rhyming phrases, right?
Yeah.
But in essence, when there's arthritis in a joint, so I'm talking about a joint that moves like your elbow or your hip joint, there should be, or there is lubrication in that joint, but as arthritis sets in, there's less of that lubricant in the joint. And so by moving that joint, you're basically spreading that nice lubricant, or if you want to think of oil in a joint, all over that bony end so that there's less friction. It takes away some of that grinding or nastiness in that joint. But also, movement's important for a lot of other things, even outside the joint. So, keeping the muscles limber, flexibility, keeping the blood flow, keeping the strength as well. So, I think that I always say that if arthritis was a person or a thing or like the bad guy, it would want us to stay still and not move, but we need to fight back with movement because of all the good things that it actually does work, push back against the arthritis.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I remember my mother-in-law, well, my in-laws, they had a dog that was arthritic, and I remember, and this was many years ago, and my mother-in-law had sort of said, "Oh, she's just,
Oh, you really
oh,
froze
she
now.
doesn't ever walk." Oh, could you still hear me? Could you hear
No,
me
you got to
still?
tell that story again.
Oh, okay. So it was my in-law's dog,
Hmm.
and she was arthritic, and my mother-in-law at the time was like, "She's just old. She doesn't want to go for walks." So they weren't
Hmm.
taking her for walks.
Yeah.
And the dog was getting really, crippled up. So I stole her one Easter. and basically got her active, got her using her legs again. And in a month and a half, I called my mother-in-law and said, okay, your dog's ready to come home again. Oh dear. But you're right, the people kind of go, oh, they're sore, just don't make them do anything. And
and the dedication in the book is to my mom, who has not seen it yet. Amazon should be delivering today, so I'm sure I'll get a tearful cry at some point today when she finally reads it. But we had a lab growing up, and she lived till 16 and a half. And I think a lot of the things that my mom did and didn't realize I think she knew what she was doing, but I don't think she knew the why. But Bubbles, who was the name of the dog, this is what happens when you let an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old name a dog. She would still take Bubbles out to, like, we lived on a circle, and she would still take her out and make her walk around the circle. She did not go fast, she did not go far, but that movement, I think, is why she lasted as long as she did. So it's so impactful. And it's so, I don't want to say, maybe not easy is the right word, but I think people are scared of it, and I think that they just need to be empowered to know that it's okay to move.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be fast, it doesn't have to be pretty.
Oh no.
Now there's other parts of the book that tackles other old dog issues, such as cancer and incontinence and vestibular disease and disc disease. And from my experience, these are topics that owners don't always fully understand, and they can be very concerning and very frightening to an owner. And as a rehab therapist, how have you worked through some of these issues?
I think you use the perfect word, frightening. And I think that vets and doctors alike, they say this diagnosis and they make it sound so scary, like the boogeyman's going to pop out of the closet and get you, and don't explain it in a way that owners really understand. So then they go home and they get on Google, which also scares them too, because what do you find on Dr. Google? The worst of everything. So I think the biggest thing that I find helpful is really having a good conversation with owners about, what did the vet tell you is going on? What was the diagnosis? But what does that actually mean? So sometimes things like arthritis sound really scary, or disc disease sound really scary, when it, probably has been there for a while, and now it just seems really bad when it's, just a little shift that things kind of went off the deep end, when, there are minor changes. Now I've lost my train of thought.
That it was frightening, that you're helping them to understand.
So, and I think that the better that an owner understands what's actually going on, the more in control they start to feel. And giving them things that they can actually do that go beyond just, like your dog needs surgery now, or do these medications, or, giving them other things that they can do every day. So whether it's, some small changes in the environment, some easy exercise. And it also gives an owner a sense of control, that they're actually doing something to help the situation, instead of just like, okay, I gave them their pills and now I'm just waiting to see what happens next. But I think that understanding what the diagnosis is, if it's normal, because a lot of senior dogs go through the same things, and life, can continue on for many years, like vestibular disease and incontinence. Managing it, and then away you go. And I mean, certainly cancer can have some pretty awful outcomes for a dog, but you can still give owners things to make, as much as you're trying to make the dog feel better, you're making the owner feel in control, which can change a mood too.
Yeah, exactly. There's another topic that you've got a whole chapter on, which I think is great, is the canine cognitive dysfunction. So basically doggy Alzheimer's. It's a great chapter with lots of tips, because I think there's a lot of people that don't.
You froze.
Do. Tell me when I'm back. Can you hear me?
Your voice is back. There you go. Your face was stuck there for a bit, but you're.
Oh no, I hope it was good. I don't usually get stuck with good faces.
I think any of us do.
Oh,
you're good.
Dear. Okay, so the Alzheimer's. And in that chapter, you have symptoms using a DISHA acronym. And can you just kind of explain what that references to?
Yeah, so it's basically a list of behaviors and changes that you would see in your dog that would lead you towards a diagnosis of canine cognitive dysfunction, which really, if anyone has known a person that's had dementia or Alzheimer's, it's a lot of the same things. So they might their behavior in certain situations might change compared to the way they used to be. So they might be more aggressive or argumentative. They might get very confused in familiar situations. So a big thing that is often referenced for dogs is they'll look for a way out of a room that is not the way out of a room. So they might go to the wrong side of a door. In the book, there's a picture of Gerard that's looking to the oven to be let
I
out.
thought that was so sweet.
Yes, it's sweet and we can giggle, but it's sad though. Or they might get stuck in the corner of a room. So if you've got your food and water bowl for the dog in the corner of a room and they go to eat, they might not know how to turn around and get out of that situation. They might forget some of the behaviors that you have trained them to do since they were a puppy, like you go outside to go to the bathroom and not doing it in the house. Sundowning, if people are familiar with human Alzheimer's disease. So basically when the sun starts to go down, that's where the sundowner's name comes from. They start to get worked up and this whole host of usually not fun behaviors start to erupt from a dog. So they might become very nippy or might start barking, but it's like the witching hour has begun. And instead of being awake in the day and asleep at night, that gets reversed. It just adds to the distress of an owner too. If you're up at night and you're tired and your fuse is shorter and shorter and shorter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, then very good. I know I've had a dog that went through that, and at one point in time, why is she laying there facing the fireplace? That it wasn't on, and everybody else was on the other side of the room, and that's when it was like, oh, she's starting to lose it a little bit.
And I don't think that most people realize how common it is in dogs, especially if you've got a dog that is living a long life. Like if I think back to Bubbles in her later years, and we used to joke that she was getting senile and she had lost her hearing and she was going blind. But, if you startled her, she would have a very aggressive reaction. Like she bit my husband once and he was very good about it. Like, he's still around. I mean, here we are 50 years later. But my brother's girlfriend at the time was actually terrified of Bubbles, even though she was this 70-pound lab that if she was lucid, she was lovely, but she was terrified of her. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, good for people to know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your weight management and food and nutrition sections, what do you wish that all dog owners knew in these areas?
I wish most dog owners knew when their dog was overweight. And I think it's a societal problem in that we don't have a lot of good doggy role models to know when our dogs are, I'm just going to say when they're fat. And I am guilty of that. And there's a picture of my dog in the book who used to be, up close to 75 pounds, and she's down around 60 pounds now. But I didn't recognize it. And you go to the vet and they've got that poster on the wall and you're like, oh yeah, that dog is fat. And your vet goes, oh, they should lose 5 pounds. And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But they don't actually show you on your own dog, this is what you should be looking for. And, I've met dogs that are grossly obese and the owners are like, oh, really? You think so? And I'm like, yeah. So yeah. So I think that would be my number one. Number two, I think marketing is rampant in the dog food world. And I wish that owners were a bit more skeptical with a lot of claims on dog food bags. One, again, I feel guilty feeding what it says on the dog food bag, knowing that there's a lot of calories in dog treats, and they can be your downfall. And then the other thing with dog food is just knowing that you don't have to feed your dog what is marketed to them. So if your dog is doing really well and they're getting older and they're fine on their diet they're on now, you don't need to switch them to an senior dog food. If they're doing fine, if there are other health issues, you know, getting some advice about what ingredients might need to be changed and getting good advice. And that is tricky, I think, in and of itself when vets are sponsored by pet food companies. So finding that advice that is unbiased and not being paid for, I think it's tricky to know where to find that. Yeah. And the last thing I'd say about those chapters is just in general about joint supplements and starting them sooner rather than later.
Right.
But
before they need it.
Yeah, which is tough because you think, oh, I'll start it later. But also giving it enough time to start working, because it's not like pain meds where you should see a faster change. Yeah, you might need a couple of months to really, for you to start seeing something that tells you that that supplement is working.
Yeah. No, that's good. Those are all good. So so what is your favorite part of the book?
My favorite part, I have two favorite parts. One, well, being a physio, I'm going to have to say the exercise section.
Oh, good.
Yes. And I think giving owners some, instead of just saying, go exercise your dog, what does that mean? Because it can be going for a walk, or if you're in canine rehab, it's always the underwater treadmill. Well, not everyone has access to an underwater treadmill, or is it always affordable? But there are a lot of things that you can do at home, 5-10 minutes, take your dogs through some exercises that make a big change. So for flexibility, again, we talked about motion is lotion, getting the joints moving, but also building up strength, which if you go and you Google, like, how do I help my dog with arthritis? You get all these ads for medications, but no one's saying, like, try these exercises that can put on muscle to support joints so your dog can keep moving, which I know, like being a physio, we're always like, exercise, yay, but it's never, you know, we all know we need muscle, but it just never gets connected there. So,
and I think it's very much like your story of the senior who was told not to do squats. And when you put it into a real life function, you do squats to sit down in a chair, to sit on your bed, to get on and off the toilet. So the strong muscles helps with functional activities.
Yeah. And I always talk about the skeleton decorations on Halloween and how that's your bones and your arthritis is in those bones, but there's no muscles on them to make it do anything. So those muscles are so important for movement and, again, function.
Yeah.
And then my other favorite part of the book is the I don't even know what it's called. That's bad, isn't it? Is the enrichment section.
Oh, yeah.
Which and that's something that I have learned so much more about in the last, I'd say, 18 months. And then we often get caught up in, we need these fancy puzzles for our dogs. Well, we need a box and newspaper and treats or something like that. We just need to get our dogs using their noses or doing doggy stuff. So whether it's going and sniffing, going and digging, like giving them something to herd, if that's their breed that they want to herd stuff, and just that lights up their brains and makes them so happy. And we always miss that part, I think. And I really like it.
I think the sniffing is so important. I had an owner of a very old dog, and she was blind and she was in a wheelchair and couldn't move very much. And she was in for her physio appointment, and she says, "Do you mind if I let Peggy Sue smell your shoe?" And I'm like, "Well, no." She says because she can't see, she can't get out. She loves smelling people's shoes and everything that they learn from that. So we let Peggy Sue smell my shoe, and the other therapist that works in my room, we got her shoe. So Peggy Sue got to smell all sorts of shit. It's just so simple, but this is important too, right? It's the crossword puzzle for the dog, perhaps.
Exactly. And for those that are worried, like, about tiring their dog out without doing so much physical activity, like, you have a dog use their sniffer for like 10 minutes, they're going to snow themselves and they'll be asleep. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Now, what else is in the book? What other chapters have we not touched on?
Yeah, so there's some information on nail care and how important that is. And again, this is a bugaboo with the pandemic too, and I don't know about in Alberta, but dog groomers have been shut down twice now, and you can't even
Oh,
get a nail trim.
no, ours
Um,
aren't.
oh,
But
well, clearly there's more animal lovers out there, but in Ontario, like dogs can't get their nails cut, and how impactful that is on posture and how a
yeah.
dog moves its body and if their joints already hurt. Like it's just a snowball effect. So that's in there. There's some information about changes that an owner can make around their home to make it easier for their senior dog, whether it be mats or lifting food and water bowls, things like that. External equipment. So I'm thinking like things like strollers or wheelchairs, or helping your dog have more grip on the floor, which again has huge impact. If you take a dog that's weaker and just can't keep their feet underneath them, and you give them a way to keep them underneath them, like they do so much better just because they're not skating on your hardwood floor.
Right.
Yeah. So that's in there.
Yeah, awesome. Now, your final chapter is a tearjerker, but so important. And so I don't think that I can likely talk about it very much, but it's about when it's time to say goodbye. And just say you did a great job on providing very helpful and thoughtful information in there. So thank you for including that. I don't think we can talk about it because then I'll cry. So we'll be good. Anything else you want to say about that chapter?
Yeah. And I think, your reaction to even just talking about it is why it had to be included. Is it's an emotional topic. And when you think about making emotional decisions versus like objective logical decisions, that's why I've got that
the scale.
Yeah, the scale in there that you can go through with your own dog. So you're taking some of that emotion away and you're answering questions that actually you can score and just see where your dog is, and you can repeat that over time to see is that number getting worse, is it getting better, so that you're not just, it's tough because no owner wants to say goodbye, 5 seconds too soon, but it takes some of that out of it. But and then the other thing that's mentioned in there is that there is such thing as like a palliative vet that can help guide you. And it's actually their job to help you with that. And often they'll come to the house too, instead of you having to take your dog out, which I think is something that I wasn't aware of up until a few years ago. So I think that that's good for people to know that they can speak out.
They are usually such special individuals.
Definitely.
Really special people.
So
it is a fabulous book, Shauna. Can you show us the cover again?
Yes. It's hard because it's like mirror image.
Slow. There, it's beautiful, nice and slow. Yay, this little dog. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for caring enough about senior dogs and their owners to put all of it together. So where can people get the book?
So right now it's available on Amazon, so you can get a paperback copy, or you can, if you've got a Kindle, or if you've got any sort of electronic device, you can download the Kindle version. I am working on getting a store up and running on my website, but Amazon doesn't care if you're a best-selling author. I am waiting for my big box of copies to come, which will show up sometime in the middle of March.
Right. So Amazon, you can get it from Amazon.
Yeah.
And where else can owners interact with you and help support each other?
Yeah, so that would be my Facebook group, which is called Our Healthy Senior Dogs. And it is a group that I started because I found a lot of the other senior dog groups on Facebook were really sad. And I think there's lots of joy to still have with a senior dog. And I thought we needed a place of more levity and to share those funny stories, even if they're gross or whatever, to have fun with our older dogs instead of, all the negative stuff. So it's a very positive space, not to say we don't get emotional and when people put their dogs down, but there's more of a balance. So I welcome people to look that up on Facebook if they're interested in joining. And you can find me. Are we still? Oh, did I freeze?
Oh,
okay.
I thought I froze, but then we're good. Yes. And where can people in and around Kingston find you?
Yeah, so they can look up the website. It's positivelyfit.ca, and it's PAWSI, not spelled like pause instead of I. I have trouble now when I'm writing positively the way it's supposed to be written, that I write it the
Oh,
wrong way. And people can find my email address on there as well if they want to get to me directly.
awesome. Awesome. So thank you. That was great, Shauna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank everyone for watching. And don't forget to hop on Amazon, get your copy. And there we go. That's it for now. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.